Good?
Yeah.
All right. What's up, guys? B here with the homie Wolfgang. What's up, Wolfgang? Thank you for coming out.
Thanks for having me. I just hit this thing.
Oh, it's all right, man. There's all kind of like fun gadgets everywhere that we
I
get to play
noticed.
with. Why there's little knobs, there's everything. But I'm really excited to talk to you because you are one of the best drone pilots I've ever seen fly. You are, and you're also
being
humble.
nice.
I'm being
nice.
I'm being honest, and I'll be able to back that up later on. We'll get to that. But Wolfgang is one of the greatest drone pilots I've ever seen fly. Huge history of it. He owns multiple like big, huge drones that he flies everywhere. He's flown all over the country. He's done it with me. He's done it with other people. And I just want to talk to you today about like, as a pro drone pilot, like how did you get into it? Like, how did you start? How did you start in the drones? Let's start there.
How did I start into drones?
Yeah.
Wow. It kind of goes back to when I was a lot younger. So prior to getting into the entertainment industry, I was pursuing a career in engineering.
Okay.
So as a kid, I used to build RC cars, RC planes with my grandpa, RC boats. So I was in that world. I was really interested in that world as a kid. And fast forward to now.
Wait, no. Before we fast forward, RC boats, planes, which one was your favorite out of all of them?
Oh, my favorite? Oh, planes for sure.
Really?
And cars. Planes and cars.
Well,
Boats.
you got to pick one. Like this one was the best one I ever built.
Oh, cars.
Which car?
Oh, it was called the Green Machine. It was a Ford F-150 4x4 truck.
Uh-huh.
I think it did like 768 feet per minute.
What does that mean? Like, how many miles per hour is that? Like,
RC cars weren't measured. Battery powered ones weren't measured in miles per hour. They're always measured in feet per minute.
oh.
Yeah, it was something.
All right, so if you had to guess, how fast was it in miles per hour? Like 40, 50?
No, I'd say probably like 28, 30 mile an hour.
We're looking this math up later.
It might be even slower. I could be just shooting too high.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Please continue.
So, well, prior to even droning, so I started as an engineering student. I used to build RC cars, planes, and all that stuff as a kid.
Right.
And then I dropped out of engineering about a year into it. Parents weren't very impressed with that. I told them I wanted to be an actor, and they were just like, "What? You want to be a what?"
Wait, so what did were your parents like engineers or something? Like were they like you should
Yes.
be like us?
Yes. So I come from a family of all mechanical engineers. My dad had a company called Precision Machine and Engineering. They built airplane parts for Boeing. Their main contract was for Boeing.
Oh.
They started in 1980, 83, about the year I was born. They sold in 1992.
Oh, so you're fancy. Okay.
They sold, yeah. So my dad retired at a very young age. I think he was 42 when he.
Your dad retired at 42?
Yeah, he retired when he
Okay.
bought a lot of real estate, and he's been pretty much a landlord for like the last, I want to say like 30 years.
Those are the goals. All right.
Yeah.
All right, please continue.
So I come from a family of engineers. So when I told him that
Hold on 1 second.
There's a giant ass wasp in that light fixture.
Oh.
You guys can't see it from your angle. Tony, if you like lean forward, it's in the box, the egg crate of that light fixture crawling around. I think it's mating with another one actually.
well, let them mate.
On the far one.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Tony, kill it.
Is it bothering you?
I mean, no. I just want to make everyone aware that there's a.
Are you allergic to wasps? Or
No.
bees?
No.
Yeah, it's the light.
Where'd it
It's
go?
gonna fly around.
Oh, shit. Okay, I get it now.
Oh, he's
It's
behind
right
me.
there.
It just went behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crush it, Tony.
He'd be guessing where it would be at.
That's just one wasp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like its
Oh.
butt is so different, like so separated from the rest of its body. It looks like two.
No, yeah, that's.
Doesn't it look like two?
It does a little bit. Yeah.
They attach there. So it'll look like that. That's why.
How'd that even get in here?
Someone left the door open. That's because people. Where is it? Oh, now
It's
in
right there on
it's
the.
in It's in the.
Are you able to
It's
reach
in the
it?
ceiling?
Yeah, I can show you where it is.
Like up above?
Where the light is. Where, far corner. Other one.
let me see.
Other one. Yeah, right there.
right in there.
Hey, you're gonna make him mad.
It's inside of it now.
Well, I guess we just leave it alone.
Okay. Pray doesn't make a mess.
That sucks. Oh, there it is.
There we go.
That's right. Make it.
Easy.
Easy.
Is that flat ended or is that a tube?
It's a tube.
Oh,
You're gonna crawl. You'll get him.
Oh, you got him.
You hit it. Where'd it go?
Right there.
Kill it. Kill it. Step on it.
Damn, Tony, were you a baseball player?
Well done.
You guys shook hands.
We took care of it.
Shook hands.
All right. All right. So
Where was I?
How long you been recording?
5 minutes.
Oh, that's 5 minutes already. This is gonna be a long one.
it's fine. No, so I'm gonna do this big X thing. Like, hey, just pick it up from here.
Yeah.
We're good to go. Hold on, let me get my chair back to where I think it was.
Yeah, I think you can move into like the actor thing.
Yeah, that's what he's about to do. That.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So your family engineering background did really
Yes.
well. Dad retired early.
Yes.
You're like, I'm gonna be an actor.
I want to be an actor, and it was a huge shock, really, to my parents, and they were just like, why would you want to pursue something like this? And I was just like, I don't know. I was always into it as something I did in school. I did some theater in school. I just didn't really pursue it because I didn't think there was like a career in it.
Right.
So I was old enough to make my own decisions, and I ended up just dropping out of school. My brother's ex girlfriend at the time was a producer for.
It's a lot of X's.
He's been around. And she was producing. She produced for some studio, and then she was producing a music video. And she said, "Hey, I think you'd be good at this. Why don't you just come and be like an extra or something?" And I was
Right.
like, "Sure." So showed up on set.
Uh-huh.
Was an extra. They ended up bumping me to like feature, and then I guess the director liked me or whatever. And then afterwards, she says, "Hey, I think why don't you think about doing this?" And she gave me a card to this school called ACT Ottawa, acting for I think
Was that
film.
a Canadian school?
Yeah,
Ottawa? Because you are
Ottawa.
Canadian.
I'm Canadian. Yes,
Okay, cool,
born
cool.
and bred. And then I ended up signing up for school. My parents pretty much just like cut me out. My dad always did this thing where he was just like, "Look, if you want to go to school, you take the loans, you do everything, and if you graduate and show me that piece of paper, I'll wipe your debt clean." I dropped out. I took loans for my first year. I dropped out. He's like, "That's on you. Yeah, you got to pay your own student loans back." I was like,
Yeah.
"Damn, Dad, that's harsh."
I mean, he told you from the beginning.
He told me from
huh?
the beginning. So
Yeah.
I ended up just like, I was working at a gas station at the time. I ended up saving some money, and I did like about 6 months at the school. From the school, I booked a show called H2O with Paul Gross. I don't know if you know Paul Gross.
No, I know the name. But I'm still over here like, where's the drones at? Like,
I know. So
okay, we're gonna get there.
we're gonna get there. Yeah. So I did a few years. I got into acting, did some shows, did some movies, moved out to LA.
Yep.
I'm
That's
out-
where we are now.
That's where we are now. Moved out to LA. Kind of got tired with I was getting burned out from the business. The business, as you know, can be very harsh,
Yeah.
very,
It's real.
very discouraging.
Yep.
I felt like I didn't build that tough skin. So I fired all my representation. I had like some pretty legit agents, managers and stuff. And I ended up just stopping for a sec. And I just was trying to get grounded again and figure out like what did I enjoy doing most as a kid. And it all went back to like RC stuff. Like I really truly enjoyed building things, flying things, driving things, etc. And then DJI
Right.
came around, and that's when I bought my first drone, and I believe it was the Phantom 2? No, Phantom 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Phantom 3 Pro.
I know. I know the Phantom 2 all too well.
Yeah.
And you would remember if that was the first one.
No,
'cause
it
that
was
thing
yeah,
tough.
because I didn't have a GoPro on it, so it was definitely the Phantom 3 Pro.
Okay.
Started flying.
Fantastic drone, by the way.
Oh, it's probably the most reliable drone I've
I
ever
never
flown.
had a single issue with that drone.
Not
I flew
one.
with that drone in at least 12 countries. I did not have a single issue.
Thing
with it.
always starts up.
Every other drone I've ever had, I've had issues with.
Yeah.
That is the only drone I've ever had that's like it starts up, it flies true
Oh yeah,
every single time.
yeah. They
I just
figured.
wish if it had a better camera on it, I'd probably still use it.
Oh, if you could put the Phantom 4 camera on that Phantom 3 Pro,
Why did they have to like overcomplicate? I don't even.
they're just jumping ahead.
we digress.
Yes.
But like as you were saying, so you bought the Phantom 3.
Bought a Phantom 3 Pro. I was already kind of like, I was still pursuing acting. I was still auditioning. I was still doing things. But on the side, I started flying my drone, and I was getting footage. I was uploading footage on Facebook, and because I was out in LA for, at the time, I think it was about 5-6 years, I already kind of built a little network of producers, directors, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera.
Uh-huh.
So when I was uploading footage, and drones were like hot at the time, people were like, "Hey, I didn't know you fly a drone.
Can you do this? For
Can you
me?
do this for me? Can you?
Oh, I
can
know
you,
that game too.
Yeah, can you do this
I have
music video?
$150 for you, man. Can you do
Exactly,
this?
and I would do it
Yeah.
because at the time I was serving tables, and $150 at the time was like, oh shit, serve tables or fly a drone.
Yeah, I mean, relative. I mean, Dad owns properties and does retired at 42. $150 happens to be a lot to me in this moment. You know, it's relative. But as you were,
Well, my dad, like, I was like cut off. So I
yeah,
mean,
because he was like, you should have been an engineer. You didn't do what I said.
You didn't do what I said, so-
you're cut off. You get cut off
Yeah.
from the teat.
yeah. So it's not like they disowned me or anything. They were just like, look, if you want to do this, go do it. You know,
Yeah,
And
I'm
I'm
just
like,
not going to support you.
I'm just not going to support this. I'm
That's
like,
so weird.
yeah,
Fully support you being an engineer, but if you want to be an actor, be gone.
yeah. It was hard to deal with because, again, I had moral support more so from my mom, but not so much from Dad. But it's funny. I know we're getting off tangent, but like now as an adult, and now that there has been success
Yeah.
that I've experienced in this industry, he looks at it differently, and I think it's
I bet he's
because
super proud now, isn't he?
yeah.
Yeah.
Out of us
course.
all,
Of
of all my
course.
brothers.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's because I did something that he told me not to do, and not that I'm like a huge success in this industry. I found a path and it's working.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
I mean, you were the lead in the what video was that again? Music video?
oh, Josh Groban.
Yeah, the Josh Groban video. You were the lead. He's literally the guy in a Josh Groban video. It's like, yeah, that's the main dude.
That's the main dude.
Excuse me. That's the main dude.
I'm the main
That's-
dude.
He's the main dude.
Josh Groban's a very nice guy, by the way.
All right, so you have a Phantom 3.
Had a Phantom 3.
You are still acting.
Still acting.
Still waiting tables.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm starting to do these short jobs. Okay, but now like you're not doing that anymore. So how did you get from these little jobs to the bigger ones?
It just sort of, how to explain? It just sort of snowballed, and it started with the Phantom 4. People were coming to me.
Phantom 3? Or
Oh,
Phantom 4?
sorry, Phantom 3 Pro.
Yeah.
My apologies. Phantom 3 Pro, and then the same people I would fly for, they were getting bigger production jobs.
Right. So the
And they were-
producers' job careers were getting bigger.
They were getting bigger. They
Yeah.
were still coming to me,
Yep.
and they were just like, what kind of drones can you offer now? And I was just like, oh man, shit. I mean, no swearing, but yeah. So at that point, it was kind of make it or break it. So from serving tables, I was very frugal with my money.
Was?
Still am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I saved a lot of money, just cash, serving tables and bartending and stuff. So I ended up just buying this drone, the DJI Inspire 2.
Ooh.
I bought a kit, and then I started using that, and I was learning as I go.
Wait. So I'm going to pause you right here.
Yeah.
How much money did you put into this drone?
To this day,
No, back then. Like when
Oh,
you
back
first bought
then?
the first kit.
the first kit was like just shy of 10,000. It was like $9,800, and I bought it on my honeymoon in New Zealand. 'Cause I
Wow.
wanted it when I got back.
So that's a little piece of coin right there.
Yeah, it was a lot of money, but I really believed that I could turn it into something. I thought I saw something that I could really do.
Okay.
And yeah.
And so that raises a question for me. So we're going to get back to the
Yep.
I want to get back to we're going to get through your chronological story, but
Yep.
for me this raises a really big question because I meet a lot of drone pilots who want to get started and they
Mhm.
were like, I want to become a professional drone pilot. I want to be a cinematographer. I want to be,
Mhm.
whatever. Because I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can make money
Oh,
being
yeah.
a drone pilot. You don't have to do like what we do. Is we're cinematographers, drone
Yes.
cinematographers. You could be in agriculture. You can be in inspections. You can be doing a lot of other things. But most people who talk to me are looking for advice on how to be a drone cinematographer.
Mm.
Would you recommend doing something like that? Like saying, just get an Inspire 2 and then figure it out?
I would say you really know what you want to do. Like, don't buy an Inspire 2. I shouldn't say just an Inspire 2, but just don't buy a drone that's $10, $15, $20, $30,000 if you are unsure of it. I'd say you got to really be passionate about what you want to do. Otherwise, it's just like acting. Like, if people ask me, or when people ask me for acting advice, I tell them, it's like, is there anything else you want to do?
Right.
Is there anything else that you can see yourself doing? If the answer is yes, go do it. If the answer is no, then you might have a chance. But because it's just a chance. You're just taking a chance, but you have to believe that you can do it. If that makes any sense.
No, it does. So, if I was to rephrase that, you're saying that the way that you did it is you went about it and you said, I'm going to drop all this money with my frugal self.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to drop on this money on pretty much the most expensive, like, fixed camera drone
At
or
the
like
time,
proprietary camera drone at the time.
Mhm.
I'm going to buy the best one that money can buy. And did you have at that point, like people that were going to hire you with that drone? Like when you bought it, where you're like, hey, I'm buying this on June 1st, but on June 30th, I have a job that's going to pay me back 20% of it or something like that.
No, I didn't have I had clients, but they were still expecting like Phantom 3 Pro rates, which was kind of a kicker. And at the
Yeah.
time, I was still trying to figure out rates, and I would still fly it, but I knew I was worth more.
Okay.
So I was still trying to figure out the game, but I knew I could still say I have it. So because I had the new shiny toy in town,
Yeah.
I was getting hired more, but I wasn't making an Inspire 2 rate a lot of times. I might have made a couple $100 more than a Phantom rate.
All right. So my question to that, and I know we're getting a little bit off.
That's fine.
We're gonna get back to the chronology.
Yeah,
We're gonna
yeah.
get there. But I really wanna know, like, so what was this journey for you when it comes to rates? Like, how did you? Because that's one thing. That's my most like like one of the things that I know a lot of people they say they learn from me is like, how do you charge for drone work? Because that's one thing a lot of people give me credit for, is being able to help people learn that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to know, what was your process in being able to figure out, like, what is an appropriate way to charge a client for drone work?
Well, honestly, it's when I met you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was
I
when
didn't
met,
expect that answer.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was when I met you. I knew, and then meeting other working drone guys. So you helped me a lot with what my time is worth and gear.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started figuring out like the insurance stuff. I was learning from other fellow drone guys. I was like, oh, you got to charge for insurance.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, okay. And then it just by networking, but a lot of the credit goes to like pricing gear. I didn't know when I would price my work, I would just say, oh, $1,500.
Yeah.
Wasn't thinking about. I was just thinking that's $1,500 in my pocket.
Yeah. You weren't itemizing. Like,
I wasn't
what you had to put
itemizing
into
it. Once I got into the itemizing part, and I was like, oh,
How do you, like, let's not put values to it, but what are the things, like, somebody hires you, let's just say for a stand, like, I want you to shoot drone shots of my truck going down the highway. I know it's clear G airspace. It's good to go. It'll be a day and a place close, so you don't have to pay for transportation or anything like that.
Okay.
It's like, what are the things you're charging for when somebody hires you to do that?
Well, first and foremost, gear.
Okay.
Excuse me. What do they want to fly? Do they want to fly? I had that dialogue with them. Like, what do you want?
Right.
Like, do you want an Inspire 2? Do you want Phantom, heavy lift, and so on and so forth?
Yep.
And let's say they decide with an Inspire 2. So there's your gear rate. Then if it's a dual op situation,
I'm gonna stop you.
Oh.
Hold on. Gear rate. How do you determine the rate for a piece of gear?
they say the standard is 10%, but because
10% of what?
10% of the value of your gear.
Oh, so if I have a piece of gear that's worth $100, then you charge 10%. So you charge $10 per day?
Per day to rent.
All right, got it. Go on.
And there's things you can do, like if the client wants to hire you for multiple days, you can give discounts and whatnot. But if we're just for argument's sake, we're talking about 1 day shoot, Inspire 2 operator, you got your gear. So they say 10%. I mean, if there's wiggle room, I know some guys charge 5%.
Right.
And there's obviously the low ballers that are out there.
Oh, I don't even want to get into those guys.
They destroy the industry.
They destroy themselves more than
Yes.
anything else because they'll get the work, but they're not able to actually
Yeah.
do the work. And then a lot of times, don't you find, like, when a customer comes to you or a client comes to you, they ask you for a rate and they tell you that somebody else has already gotten it. Like, hey, like, you charge them, let's say $5,000.
Yeah.
Like, it's $5,000 for this, to be able to do this job you want. And they're like, well, this other people said they'll do it for $1,500 with the same exact gear as you.
Well, then go.
That's exactly what that's
Go
what I
with
say
them.
too. Like,
Yeah.
go on,
Go
have
ahead.
fun, enjoy that.
You'll get $1,500 worth of work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they normally come back,
Oh,
don't
of
they?
course. They always do.
Yeah, they
always
always
do.
come back. They might not. They won't. They normally don't come back for that same job because the fun thing about production is, like, you only get one chance to shoot something.
That's it.
So you get that one chance, and then after that, it's just like,
Yep.
next time around, you're gonna go with them or you gonna call me?
Yeah, it
They're
costs.
like, yeah. So I put the $5,000 into the budget before I called you, Wolfgang.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, back to it. So gear.
So we have equipment. We have. That's all we said so far.
Yeah,
The
that's it.
equipment.
That's it. So the equipment, and then pilot rate.
Okay.
And since we're dual opping, we have a camera operator rate.
So there's two. Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Depending on the job, if it's like a risky job or a tough job, you
Or a
might want
nighttime job.
or a nighttime job,
Yeah.
you're going to want an AC/visual observer,
VO.
a VO. You're going to need a VO by FAA regulation. You have to have that on your.
Somebody has to be watching it.
Someone has to be watching.
Yeah.
And that insurance.
Okay. So you charge. So we have equipment, the two or three crew members.
2 or 3 crew members.
Insurance.
Anything
else?
I'm sure something's gonna. I'm missing it
You're
now.
looking like, I don't want to say that's it, but
Yeah, I know, because typically when I write a budget for something, I sit down and I go off other budgets that I've written.
right.
Uh,
But I mean, it's pretty standard.
that's pretty standard.
Yeah.
It's pretty standard. It's gear, insurance, and I think travel was one, but if it's local, it's local.
Yep.
And just paying your guys.
Okay.
You know, there might be like production fees and stuff in there. I haven't done it, but I know like production companies do charge production fees for stuff. If there's a permit that needs to be pulled, you might be in Class G airspace, but if there's a permit that needs to be pulled, if the production is going to pull it.
See, that's a whole different conversation when it
Yes.
comes to like getting the permitting and doing it right, because then you
Yes.
might have to hire like a fire safety advisor.
Yes.
You have to pay by hourly that normally have a minimum hour rate.
Mm-hmm,
It becomes a whole thing. I mean, specifically, we live in one of the more litigious areas when it comes to drone work.
Oh yeah.
In Los Angeles, working with like Film LA and all that.
Oh, yes.
It becomes a thing. We've done it.
It's a nightmare. It can be a nightmare sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's just part of the.
I tell you, I just had I actually just did a shoot with Tony. My business partner Tony.
Yeah.
Yesterday, was that yesterday?
Oh.
Yeah.
I saw
yeah,
that.
You saw that.
He was putting the filter on.
Yeah. So he's the greatest AC ever. He actually forgot to bring blades, the drone blades. I gave him a whole day to prep the drone. And I was like, prep the drone, make sure everything's right. And I was like, do you have everything? We arrived, and the dude did not have blades in the drone case. There's no blades. So I'm like, I guess that's my fault. But I'm like, it's not. There's no way this is my fault. Like, you had one job, prep drone. All he had to do was prep the drone and then watch the drone in the air.
Is Tony familiar with prepping drones at all? Or
He is actually, because we've traveled much time together to be able to do, like, he passed the FAA exam. You know what I'm saying?
Right. He's a 107
He's
operator.
a 107 operator. So like Tony actually is a drone pilot. Tony has done all of these things. He's flown these drones. I've showed him how to fly drones. Tony is a capable person. He also is a director of photography. So when it comes to prepping gear, he's the one who taught me how to do that. You know what I'm saying? So like, I wouldn't worry about that. But I digress. That's not what I want to bring up. I just like to make fun of Tony when I can. He fixed the problem. So everything ended up being fine.
Okay.
But interesting thing that happened on this shoot is we actually arrived to the shoot, and we had already given them an insurance cert. We arrive and they're like, hey, this insurance cert isn't what we needed it to be. I'm like, but you told me specifically you need these wordings on this insurance cert. And it's like, yeah, it's on there. And they're like, yeah, but we want it to be in this format. And
I've had, yeah.
So the format they were asking for was the same format that you use for like homeowners and production insurance format.
Yeah.
Which our guy does not do.
He does. He did it for our. He
does not do it anymore. So I sent that over to him and said, hey, can you make us one of these? And he pretty much was just like, no. So I just gave so we flew the stuff anyway, and I just gave his email to them so y'all can figure it out. And we still filmed it and shot it, but I thought that was really interesting because we're talking about permitting and paperwork and all that. So like to be able to get the permitting, you normally need three things. You normally need registration.
Yep.
You need proof of insurance.
Yep.
And you need a license.
Yeah, and maybe the fourth insurance might require a POA.
Yeah, plan of activity.
Plan of activity.
Yeah, so this one didn't require the POA.
Okay.
But either way, I thought that was really interesting that this lady wanted something specific that already said what she had. And we're literally on set. We showed up on set, and she's asking when we arrived to set if we can give her something new. I'm like, we already gave you everything.
And it's because the productions are not used to the drone stuff quite yet. They're used to working in an old format.
Yeah.
And that's why Joe refuses to do it now. Not to call him out, but like Joe refuses to do it now.
Yeah.
Because he's right. They need to adapt.
Well, and the interesting thing in that for me is that drones cause a lot of fear.
Yes.
No matter where I go, no matter where I fly, there's only two reactions you really get about drones. One of them is like pure joy. Like people are just like they're so curious and they're so happy to see it. They want to ask you the same questions that I've actually seen shirts that answer all the questions.
Oh,
because, yeah, you've seen those. Like they all have the
on
same
the back.
Yeah, exactly, on the back. It's like, no, this how fast it goes, 400 feet. You know, it's like it tells you how high
how
it goes.
much it is or whatever.
Here's how much it costs. But the other reaction is fear, where people are just like, are you watching me? Are you flying that over my head? Is it going to crash on me?
Yeah.
Like how much damage can it do? And for me, it's like we have $1 million policy on this drone that we've already proven to you and given you the paperwork that shows not only do we have it, we put it with your name on it. And you're still curious to know. It's like, I in my mind, I always go into these scenarios. It's like, how can this Phantom, which is like, what, a 4-pound drone or something like that?
I think like 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5 pounds. That's about this big.
Yeah.
How can that, even though it flies, cause $1 million worth of damage? Because some places require $5 million worth of damage for the Phantom.
Yep.
And I'm like, This isn't a heavy lift drone.
I think it's not for damage. I think it's for. It's not damage. I don't think it's not the $1 million for damage.
It's liability.
It's liability.
But I'm saying like even if it's like physical stuff, like they built a $1 million man, gave this dude legs and an arm and new eyes. You know what I'm saying? Like healthcare is really expensive, but how much damage is something gonna have to do to you to require, or multiple people require $1 million?
It's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
You can't even get into the studio circuit without a $5 million.
$5 million policy.
It's crazy.
With a little tiny drone. That could even be a Mavic Air. Any drone.
Yeah.
Little hand-sized 1 pound drone. $5 million. All right, so let's get back. Let's take it back. Let's get back to how you got into it. So far, you just now bought your Inspire 2.
Yep.
All right. So you bought your Inspire 2, and then what? What happened? Like, did you make all the money?
No, God, no.
You didn't make the money immediately? Everybody's like, oh my God, you have it.
No, thankfully I didn't borrow the money to buy it. I just paid cash. And I don't know. I put it on a credit card to get the points for it.
Nice.
And then I used those points for travel, etc. But I paid cash, and it was it took a while. And the thing is, like, if you start, I was literally starting a business.
Right.
Is what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how that's how Airwolf came along.
Airwolf. What is Airwolf?
Airwolf is the entity, the business. That's what I've called it. So
what business? I mean, your drone business.
The drone business. That's what I call it.
Okay, Airwolf.
So Airwolf is what I came up with, and how I came up with that was that.
Well, your name is Wolfgang.
My name is Wolfgang, and then people on set would say, "Oh, Airwolf's on set. You're gonna get some drone stuff today," and I was like, "Oh," I just kind of rolled with it.
I mean, that was like a movie or something, right?
It was a TV show back in, I think, the late 80s, early 90s, but people actually said, I don't know if you can use that because it used to belong to Universal.
Right.
So I went on the USPTO.gov.
Of course you did.
And I trademarked it. Universal Studios let it go in 1992, so I went and trademarked cinematography services, lunch boxes, toys, apparel. I went and bought it all.
Nice.
And that cost another $2,500. But it lasts for like 10 or 20 years or something, and then you got to renew it. You just had to show how it's being used in commerce.
Right.
And then you own it. So now, if Universal Studios wanted to remake anything,
you get paid.
They would have to pay me a lot of money to get that back.
I like how you looked at the camera. You have to pay me
You got to pay me a lot of money to get that back.
This. Yes.
So I trademarked it, and that's kind of what I've been using for social media, and that's kind of how I started the business. And I was still learning, though. So you're not going to make your money. Point I was getting at is that you're not going to make your money back in the first couple of years. I mean, you know this as a business owner. You start a business, yes, you make money, but a lot of it just goes to keep, in the first while, it goes into keeping the business afloat.
Yes, very much so.
And it wasn't until I started reaching out to companies. So what happened was I was on a set one day. It was a low budget thing. I was doing a favor for somebody. And
of course. You did a lot of those back in the day.
I did. And I didn't have any ND filters. ND filters, very important for drones.
Neutral density filters.
Yes. Didn't have any of those. Thankfully, the i2 has aperture control, so I could compensate, but it's still not the same. I knew I had a little bit of clout as an actor or as an online personality, I guess.
Famous. Go ahead. Yeah,
No. And so I reached out to companies, and I reached out to Polar Pro. Polar Pro, I just basically said, hey, I'm so-and-so. I get this amount of views per video. Send me some stuff. And they were like, sure. And literally within 2 days, I had a package at the door, fully kitted ND filter set for my i2.
Yeah, they're good for that.
They're good for that. And that kind of set me in the right path. And then I just started working a little more, and I'm still kind of trying to do brand things with Polar Pro.
Yeah.
And that's actually where I met you.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was super weird. So
what was your perspective? Now we've made it to the moment that me and Wolfgang meet.
That's where I was actually getting to this whole time, was how we met.
Oh, really? That's what we were. Okay, I felt like it, but I wasn't sure.
That's where that's where I wanted to take this. Is like that's where how we met.
So I'm gonna give, if you don't mind, I want to give my perspective of meeting Wolfgang the first time, and then I want you to give yours. Does that work?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So at this point, I had started a drone channel, and it started to get a little bit popular, and Polar Pro had reached out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they had sent me a bunch of stuff, and they sent me everything I asked for. So I was like, these guys are great. And then they had some idea to be able to have me be like a drone teacher remotely. I didn't think it was a good idea, which I was very vocal about.
You were.
I was very vocal about that. But either way, they had done so much for me that I was like, of course, they still told me to come down to the office.
Yeah.
And they said they're going to interview me for this thing, and they're putting together like a promo video. I was like, whatever you need. So I drove down. I remember it was really far away.
Oh, so far.
It was so far. Where was it? Do you remember?
It was like past Orange County. I think.
Yeah, it was really far, but they had a cool little warehouse office thing with like
Yeah.
a studio thing in it. So we get to the studio, then they sit me down, and then the main guy interviewed me, and we did it, and it was just like really quick. And then they were
Mhm.
like, after that, they took me in the back, and then they were like, in the back, they're like, yeah, there's gonna be more people coming,
Yeah.
but what we want to do is ask your opinion about these other products that we have coming out. Like, what do you think of these things? Wait, was that? No, that didn't happen first. We
no,
did that
happened.
together.
You and I did that
Oh,
together.
We did that together. So as I had finished doing my interview, I remember what happened. They took me upstairs to show me some other stuff they had filmed
Yep.
for it, and then they brought me back downstairs,
Yep.
and they're in the process of prepping you to be
Mhm.
interviewed.
Yes.
And I remember they were like, Brennan, can you just sit in and watch? And I was just like, okay. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't have anything for me to do, and they didn't want me to leave yet because they still wanted me to ask me about the products.
Yep. Yep.
So I was like, okay. So I sat in and watched, and the guy who was interviewing you was just like,
He didn't know how. He didn't know nothing against them because I don't think
they just
they're-
didn't do this stuff.
they didn't do this stuff. So I didn't know how to answer the questions, or he
No,
didn't know.
you
and
didn't.
he didn't know how to ask the questions. So
He made it very difficult.
yeah, and then you kind of took the reins there.
Yeah, I
and-
stepped in. I mean, because the thing is, like, when they were interviewing me, it's the same guy.
Yeah.
And I knew what he was going for. So I was just like, do you mind if I answer this question? And I just kind of just took over my interview while I was doing it. And I just
You
did
pretty much just directed the whole thing.
I
so.
did. Yeah. So I just pretty much directed myself. And then I did that. And then they were struggling with you. And then I
Mhm.
kind of just tapped him on the shoulders like, do you mind if I give it a shot? And he's like, cool. So then I interviewed you. And I was like, oh, he's actually really good on camera. Like, you're not
You're not
related to
asking
him.
the right questions or
So-
how to answer, or you're not knowing how to ask the questions.
Yeah, and we literally met as me interviewing
Yep.
you because I didn't even get to talk to you before the interview because I walked in while they were trying
Yep.
to interview you. So we met me interviewing you. It was like, oh, what's up? Nice to meet you. Okay, cool. Here we go. We were interviewing. And then after that, you were really funny because after that, like, you were like, it felt like you didn't want to say it, but you did anyway. You're like, I was like, yeah, man, it's nice to meet you, Wolfgang. Blah, blah. You were like, yeah, I already kind of, I know.
I already know who. I already knew who he was because of his drone channel.
Yeah, you're like, I know who you are. I was like, for how?
Yeah.
And that's, I was remember, I was like,
Yeah.
what? How do you know me? Like, did
I-
we meet somewhere?
No,
Like,
I watched your night waiver video that you didn't actually disclose how to get a night waiver.
Nope.
It really drove me nuts. But
Yeah, you're
that's how I
welcome.
knew you from.
that's all right. It's fine. People like that video.
You know what? You didn't give the information I needed.
Yeah, well, I got a night waiver.
Yeah.
I told you how to figure it out.
I went through. Yeah, I figured it out. But yeah, the actual process.
No, that would be a whole separate video. Like,
Oh, I know. I actually ended up going to the Drone U.
oh yeah, they do a good job.
They
of that.
do. They do podcasts and they do all kinds of good guys over there. I mean, they always reply to questions I have and whatnot. But yeah, and that's how we met.
Yeah. So, do you have anything to add to that from your perspective? Because I do remember there's
Um,
one other thing I have for the end of this, but I'm gonna wait for it. But go. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I was. I know when you left, the guy at Polar Pro. I don't want to mention names or anything, but
Yeah.
I was just like, "Hey, that's Droner, right?" And he was just like, "Yeah." Yeah, I was like, oh, I told him, I was like, I just watched his video literally like 2 days ago. I didn't know you guys had a mirror.
Right.
And then that was it. And then I just started talking to you, and
No. So that's the part I want to talk about. So two things.
Oh.
Number one, first of all, it was really funny to me that when we met, I interviewed you, and then we went into the back room and looked at all the products.
yes,
And that's when I got very opinionated, I think. That was
Oh,
the part-
yeah.
That's when I was like, I think that's a bad idea. I think that's a bad idea. I think that's a good idea. I think that's a bad idea.
Yep.
But let's say they showed us 5 ideas. I was like, honestly, guys, 4 of these, not good.
And they tried going with one. Remember the I2 case?
Yeah. And I told them, I was like, I don't think
They
that's a-
did it, but it didn't. I don't.
It didn't
it's,
sell.
it's on their website, but
Yeah,
I noticed. I
But
don't think
also,
so.
remember they had like the handles for the i2 to use it as like a gimbal?
And they sold that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Katana.
Yeah, but the Katana for the Mavic was a better one than the one for
Yes.
the Inspire because I was like, if you can afford a $10,000 drone, you can afford a $1,000 gimbal for a camera.
Oh yeah.
You know, like you don't need this to. Either way, that didn't matter. So I pretty much gave my thoughts on everything. It ended up being that I was pretty much right about everything, including the program we were there for. I was just like, I don't think this program is going to happen. I don't think there's a need for what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because I make content for people who like drones, and I'm telling you right now, I've never been asked for anything like what you guys are doing right now.
No.
And even if I was, I, being a person who makes content, would be giving it to them for free on YouTube.
Yep.
So I was just like, people are going to be able to find the answers to these questions on YouTube for free, so it doesn't matter.
That's what I do. That's how I found you.
Yeah. And then the thing about you though, that was really interesting, and this is actually one of the big points that I wanted to hit home in talking to you today, is that the reason why me and Wolfgang work together to this day isn't actually because of how good of a drone pilot is. That was secondary. The primary reason why Wolfgang and I work together is because of how persistent he was about staying in contact with me. When we first met, we exchanged information,
Yeah.
and I was so apathetic. Was I not? I mean, I'm not. It wasn't like I didn't. It's not so much that I was like, screw you, Wolfgang. It was more so like
It was more like, yeah, I'll take your number, but I'm never gonna do anything.
I was
with
just like, I
this.
don't know what we
Yeah.
would talk about. Like,
Yeah.
I just didn't have there was no common ground. I didn't know. I didn't have any need for any, like, I was like, I have enough friends. I mean, but you cool, but I don't know. Like, I just didn't know what we would do.
Yep.
So you just kept hitting me up. You were just like, what's up, B? How you
What's
doing,
up?
man?
What's
How's
up?
it going? What's
Yep.
going on? And you just kept hitting me up, and I was like, you know what, man? Come through. Like, come by. Let's hang out. Let's go fly together.
Yeah.
So, and we did. And I was
And
like,
it turned into a video.
and it turned into a video.
It turned into a video.
It turned into a video. With, was it Khalik there too?
Khalid, Kyle, you, me. I think it was just the four of us.
Yeah, it was the four of us, I
Yeah.
think. So we did that, and watching him fly and the way he approached drones and how OCD were.
Oh, I'm so OCD. It's
so
terrible.
OCD. But for me,
It's
that's something
terrible.
I don't have. So I looked at you and it's like, oh, wow, you have everything as a drone pilot that I don't, that I think is important for a drone pilot. And also, I was growing my production company as
Yes.
well, but I was still the head of my drone department for my company.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't be both of these things effectively.
Right.
So I was like, Wolfgang, come start working with us. And then you did.
And that's where we're at today.
I was like, that's it. That's
you're
it.
looking and listening to Emmy nominated.
We are
We're
Emmy nominated.
work.
Oh,
for,
that's right.
Yes, The Sound
We've
of
done-
Passion.
Yeah, we did. We've done Emmy nominated work now.
Yeah, this is my second one. The first one I did, I don't think I knew you then, but the first one I did was for
Well, nobody cares about the first one. Nobody cares.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And, we're
We could win an Emmy.
September. So if you're a voter, do vote.
We'd appreciate
The
that.
Sound of Passion with Mario Andretti.
So so now I have a couple. So that's how me and Wolfgang met.
Yes.
The piece of advice that I really thought was important was the persistence, and that's one thing I think you're good at is when you want something or you want to have a relationship or you want to do things, you just go and do it. So
Yeah.
like right now, it's like you've applied for every kind of waiver for every airspace, for
Yeah.
every airport you can imagine. You just have it. Like you don't know if you have a job for it yet. It's just preemptively, you're just like, this is a good idea. This is what I'm going to do.
You just never know.
You never know.
This industry's so up and down. You just never. We can get a call literally. Transit can get a call.
Yeah.
We can get a call collectively, and we can be anywhere. in
Yeah,
the
we
world.
could be next week. We could be in Alaska shooting. Like
Oh,
that's how things happen. They're just like, hey, I need a drone pilot in Alaska next week.
Yeah.
Somebody dropped out or whatever, or we didn't know we wanted drones. The director decided
Yeah.
they wanted some drone shots, so we need this next week. And it's like, all right, well, we can't fly there because we don't have the airspace. But if we have it ahead of time, when
It's
there's downtime,
a no-brainer. You just get it.
yeah, it doesn't cost a thing.
Yeah, it doesn't cost a thing. It
Doesn't
just
cost
costs
a thing.
time.
A
But
lot of
it's-
time.
But it's
And persistence.
Worth it. It's worth
Persistence. So that's like, I think that's like the key word for today for Wolfgang is just in general is like, I personally believe one of the biggest factors to your success as a drone pilot is your persistence. Is that you're persistent about your practice. You're persistent about what it is that you want. You're persistent about like getting what you want, like not just knowing what it is, but also saying like, I want these waivers. Like if there's a problem with that, you don't just give up. Like you keep going back
and I think
at
a
them.
lot of it. I think a lot of it has to do with I fly drones. I know you think I'm very good at it, which I don't think I'm bad. I certainly don't think I'm the best, but I think I'm better at everybody at preparing myself. And I know when it comes to a producer or a director looking for something, if I have all my ducks in a row, as they say, they're going to go for me over someone who's not set up properly. So there might be a guy who has a better drone, but he might not have his waiver. He might not even be licensed. There's still guys that fly drones that don't even have their 107s.
It's ridiculous.
For legitimate projects.
With
How's
like a heavy lift. I've seen somebody with a heavy lift who didn't have.
I don't know how they do it. So
Yeah.
all I know is like I've definitely gotten a lot better with piloting, camera work. Thanks yourself, Kyle, Randy, like everybody, Tony, can't forget about Tony.
I can forget about Tony.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like I've learned so much by just surrounding myself with people who know more than me
Right.
when it comes to camera stuff. But with drone, there's definitely better pilots out there. I just wanted to be the most legit and most prepared, and I think that's how I kept working. Is that because I did do the work, the due diligence, and I got my waivers, I got all that stuff, just so I can work more, and I think that's how I just kept getting hired.
No, and I think you've done a great job. And one other, I
Thank you.
think what for somebody who understands what's happening with drone work, I think having that mentality is really important because the one thing that always comes first with drones is safety.
Yes.
Number one. And how do you ensure that you're safe? You ensure that safety through preparation.
Prep.
Making sure you're doing the maintenance, you're examining everything.
Mm-hmm.
You're OCD pretty much about
Yes.
the way that you go about it.
Yes.
Tony can learn a little bit about that. But you have to really you really have to be like on it.
Yes.
And so when somebody sees that you're responsive in your emails, they see that you're detail
yeah.
oriented, you're asking them the right questions,
Mhm.
providing them the information that you know they're
Mhm.
going to need, and doing all these things ahead of time. Like the biggest concern, like we said before, that people have with drones is safety, the fear. There's fear associated, and if you can alleviate a lot of that off on the front of it
Oh, yeah.
by being prepared,
Oh, yeah.
have your duckies in a row,
Yep.
half the battle right there. Most people are super nervous with drone pilots, especially the first time they fly with them,
Oh, yeah.
until after the first flight. It's like typically it's like they're nervous. Like, okay, cool, safety
Yeah.
meeting. Everybody's freaking out.
Mhm.
out. There's tension in the air. You can feel it before
You-
every flight.
Oh, yeah.
And then as soon as you get in the air, you get them what they want, and it's beautiful and it's super easy. You do something tricky like catch the drone with your hand or something like that, and just
I
make
like
them feel.
doing that.
Yeah, because it impresses people because
Yeah.
they're just like, oh, okay, this guy has control of this thing.
Sometimes I do it just to ease the pressure on people.
Yeah.
A lot of times, yes, it's cool. It looks great. It's a great social media post. But a lot of times I do it purposely because there's tension in the air. And when they see someone catch an I-2, they're like, oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
I still don't do that.
He's like, he's done this before. So
Yeah.
we trust what he can do.
Definitely. And I think
know?
that's really important is like a big part of being a drone pilot isn't just like there's so much more to it than being able to control the sticks and make the drone fly. It's
There's
being
so
able to
much.
understand camera work is being like I shouldn't say a drone cinematographer, not just a drone pilot.
Yeah.
But being a drone cinematographer, you have to understand camera work. You have to understand perceptions. Like there's psychology to it, like we were saying.
Air awareness.
Yep, awareness. You have to understand airspace
Aerospace.
to get your Part 107, which is a thing.
It's getting more strict, but I think it's going to help guys like you and me who stick it out.
Yeah,
Because there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be, and girls and women. There's
people.
There's going to be a lot of people that are just going to stop doing it because of the legalities and everything's getting very strict, especially Canada. Canada just laid up.
Canada is the toughest place to do production in general. Like
Yeah.
if you're not Canadian. If you're Canadian, it's probably great.
Yeah. Well, I'm
But-
actually going through the process right now to get my Canadian drone license.
You should. And also you should consider starting a Canadian production company just to have on the side in case, you know what I'm saying?
Well, something, I mean, even for transit, like if it's easier for you guys to do a job, and I don't know if it's how it works.
No,
in
if
Canada.
we have a Canadian citizen that we work with, it makes it way easier.
I didn't.
I
Didn't know.
Specifically, they always want us to work with a Canadian production company. That's why I was
Yes.
saying that. Or if they don't, they charge us a lot more money.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
They charge us a lot more money, and there's a lot more regulations for us. It's very difficult to actually bring gear into Canada.
Oh, very hard.
That's the thing. So all that to say, whatever. So I feel really good. Like I want to just see, like, do you have any like closing thoughts of like when people are like, I want to be a professional drone pilot. This is what I'm doing. We've already talked about some advice that you'd give.
Yes.
Is there any other piece of advice or things that you want to leave anybody with about what it is to be a pro drone pilot? A pro drone cinematographer.
Before I get into that, I give a lot of credit to camera operators, drone camera operators. I know the pilots get a lot of credit for flying the drone, but honestly, if it wasn't for a good camera operator, we wouldn't have those shots.
Thank you very much.
Look, if a drone, if I fly if I do like something weird on the sticks, or if I put the drone in a difficult spot, and my camera operator can still compensate and keep the subject in frame, a lot of times those shots turn out really nice, but you have to have the intuition to know where to move the camera.
Yeah. And that's my favorite thing to do.
Yes.
As you know, I love flying. Like obviously
yeah.
I love flying, but if I got to pick as a part of a drone team, what would be my favorite position easily?
Camera.
It would be operating the gimbal,
Yeah.
operating the camera on the drone.
And as for advice to anybody who's looking to get into it, just shoot good stuff. And when you edit, make sure you edit out micro adjustments or use warp stabilization or just take out drone shadows, cut around those drone shadows. I see demos out there that just have, they just don't look that great,
You can see the
Just
shadow of the
shoot
drone in
good
the
stuff.
shot,
Put
yeah.
out your, I think a lot of these drone companies are still in business because they do put out quality work. And I think that's what it is. Just because you own a drone doesn't mean you're a cinematographer yet. And I think that's a whole other level.
No, I agree. It is a whole other level. And on that note, I think the piece of advice I would give, like to piggyback on yours, is that you always have to remember what you're looking to do as a drone pilot. Is that you're creating an illusion.
Yes.
Is what you're doing. You're creating the illusion that your eye is in the sky. You don't want people to feel like they're looking at drone footage of a big camera flying through the sky. What you want to do, just like a regular cinematographer on the ground does, is they make you forget there ever was a camera.
Yeah.
This is now your
You
perception.
want it to kind of just blend in
Exactly.
seamlessly.
You just want it to feel like you see it.
Yes, and
So-
know your client. That's another tip: is know what you're shooting. Like if you're shooting a real estate stuff, real estate job.
I do not like real estate.
I kind of veer away from it's
Yeah.
oversaturated, and there's so
It's a lot.
people are doing a house for $50. It's not worth
Makes no sense.
But know your client. Know, like, I've had the problem of showing up to a real estate job thinking like I'm shooting a movie, which is great because a lot of your stuff's going to look good. But the only difference is that the client's not going to appreciate it because they just think, I just want to see a picture of the piece of property.
Yep.
Or I'm approaching it like, I want to do this 360 circle and a 180 with a drop down and elevate, and they don't care.
Yeah. So you got to know what they want.
Know your client. Know what they want before you actually get on location, start shooting. Just know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
But,
Cool.
I mean, that's
it.
all I can think
feel
of
good?
right now. Yeah,
I have
feel
one
good.
more that we had a lesson on. One last piece
Oh yeah, shoot.
is be willing to say no.
Yes.
Yes, Wolfgang.
Don't be a yes man. Even though I have
Yes,
I have a hard
Wolfgang.
time saying yes. I have a hard time saying no. But
Canadian.
it's a Canadian in me. But say no. It's okay to say no.
Yeah, if they tell you to do something that makes you uncomfortable,
Say no.
that's too dangerous.
Or just have someone with you that's loves saying no.
I'm good at saying no.
You're great at saying no.
I'm
Just
really
have
good
someone
at
that
saying
just
no.
loves saying no, and then you'll be just fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, be safe with your decisions on where you want to put the drone, and
Directors will always push you to do something you
creatives
shouldn't
will
do.
always
Push you to do something you
always.
shouldn't do. So
Yeah.
All right, well, Wolfgang, I really appreciate your time today, man. It was
Thanks for having me.
I hope that that everybody can get. I hope everybody got as much out of this conversation as I did.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. If they have any questions, just let you or I know.
Yeah. Oh, how can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, airwolf.la, and on Facebook, airwolf.la. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. So if you have any questions, drone related, if non-drone related, go ahead, ask me a question.
Yeah, check him out. He's great. He posts a lot more than I do, and he's definitely more responsive than he's as responsive as I hope to be. I aspire.
Oh God.
So thank you, brother. Appreciate you
Thank
coming
you.
on.
Appreciate it.
Until
Thanks
next
for having
time.
me.